we're going to be looking at timelines in counselling. Can you give me a little bit more info on that one, Rory?
Absolutely. Well, it's come from Sarah Quazada, so I apologise if I'm not got quite the pronunciation right, but I think I'm near enough. And she writes, does anyone have any examples how to do it with timelines in the counselling room? Plus, is it best to do it in a session or let the client do it in their own time and bring it back to discuss? Thanks, everyone. And this was posted in our Facebook page, has almost 15,000. Can you believe that, Ken?
I can.
You can? All right, okay.
Yeah, because it's such a great community. It is so rich in what is discussed there. 15,000 members.
Yeah, it's almost a football stadium, isn't it?
It is.
And full of people who are really wanting to help you with your counselling journey, share their experience. And if you want to join our Facebook page, just go into Facebook, type Counselling Tutor, you'll find us. It's a closed group. Knock on the door. Of course, we're going to let you in and join that growing group of people all talking about counselling, psychotherapy. We've got ourselves in there. We pop in occasionally, myself and Ken. We've got lots of students. We've got some tutors who pop in and are very helpful. So thank you to our colleagues there. And also we've got qualified colleagues who come in and pass the wisdom of their experience on. Great place to be.
Indeed. And a big shout out to our moderators who keep the group on topic. So it's advertising free. You guarantee that you're going to have just good content in there.
Yes, the moderation posse, Julie, Stephen, Darren. Yeah, big shout out to you. Fantastic. The moderation massive, as I like to call them.
Like it. So tell me some more about timelines in counselling.
Yes, well, it's really, really interesting. You know, sometimes we will work with clients who have a number of significant events in their life. And talking about them is one thing, but sometimes to draw it like a map can be really affirming and also be very visually sort of informing, because when we talk about things, sometimes it's hard to put them into context, but when we see them, it makes so much more sense. And certainly when I was on residentials, where we went away with students, we would do timeline exercises where we might ask something like timeline of grief. And people would write a long line. So you draw a line along a sheet of paper, and then you would put in when significant people died, and and the age you were. And it was amazing how many people said, "I didn't realise how many people I'd lost when I was 14 or 18 or 7." It's also very good for attachment. So about people coming and going into your life. You know, you can really help a client explore why they may feel that they don't want to form relationships with others if they find that in their very early life they'd had lots of caregivers who just came in and out of their lives. Really useful tool. And I was talking to Karen Burke from the Manchester Institute for Psychotherapy a couple of years ago, and she's a brilliant therapist, and I think a lot of her work, she's a gestaltist, and she has a roll of wallpaper, and she will draw timelines, and she will literally put them all around the room and walk the clients along. Fantastic. Wow. Fantastic. It has to be used thoughtfully. So answering the second part of that question, do you let clients do it in their own time and bring it back to discuss? I would be thoughtful and say no, because it might be that if you let them do it in their own time, it might be a bit overwhelming. This is a big piece of work, certainly with things like grief, attachment, certainly, clients who've had historical abuse, it may need a very, very supportive person other in the room while the realization of what's happened appears. So my view, Sarah, would be if you're going to do timeline work, make sure you set some time for it, and make sure that, you're thoughtful of what that might bring up for the clients. Very powerful.
Definitely, because as they're exploring that timeline, the emotions may come to the surface, and you're able to work. And you I guess you never know where that might lead to in terms of where the client chooses to go within that. And also, Rory, as we were discussing this just pre us making the recording for this, you mentioned this is a very person-centered exercise, because it is that person exploring their life and bringing it into the here and now. Because person-centered is not about there and then. It is about the here and now, and how the there and then maybe affects them and how they feel about that in the here and now.
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of modern person-centered therapists would use that, and certainly Natalie Rogers did with Carl Rogers' daughter. She developed expressive therapy. Rogers described that as ploughing new ground. And I think, and you might speak to another person-centered therapist who has a completely different opinion, don't we all? Because that's what person-centered therapists are. They're a group of people. Yes, we're a big tribe. And, we're one nation, many tribes. And I think it's very person-centered because you're working with what's in the here and now.
Yeah.
But yes, it does have a nod to our friends in the psychoanalytical world, because you are looking at past events. So we nod respectfully down the line of time, but very, very useful. And, my experience can really, really help clients see what's going on for them.
And I think it's a contemporary way of working as well. We speak about person-centered and person-centered. I guess there was a time where bringing a piece of paper into the room and a pen or a pencil would be considered, oh, that's not person-centered. Person-centered is just about the core, but it is person-centered. It's that underlying philosophy of working in the client's frame of reference and being with them unconditionally, prizing them as they bring this information, which in a timeline, I know I've done timelines myself. Rory, you mentioned residentials. We did timelines on residentials. There's a lot of stuff there. And it was really surprising because I started off with a piece of paper and a pen, and I ended up with emotions and feelings that were very close to the surface in the here and now of the moment of looking at that, Rory.
Yeah, absolutely. And one plea, if you like, this isn't something for novice therapists to experiment with. Get the fundamentals of your practice right first, because this is about timing. It's not something to be pulled out of a hat like a magician as an intervention. This is something where you might identify that the client's learning style is very visual, in which case you could tentatively suggest it. It's not let's do that and this will really push it along.
Yes.
We don't want to be pushing the process along. The client uses the process, but if our timeline helps, then so be it.
I like that, Roy. I think that is very wise words indeed from many years in practice. I can tell. So what you don't want to be doing is going, right, so it's session 3. So here's the paper and the pens. Today, we're going to be doing timelines, because that's not person-centered for a start. That's very directive. But it may well be that the client is bringing their life, and as they're bringing their story and their story is unfolding, into the room is coming the timeline of events that have happened and what happened. You may then introduce it gently and saying, I wonder if it would be helpful if we kind of visualize this and put it down and worked on that together. And then you're inviting the client as opposed to directing the client. And that's maybe an informed way of introducing that, certainly in a person-centered way.
Yeah, it's also maybe that you can say as a therapist, there seems to be, you seem to be talking about a lot of events. It would help me to understand better if I put it in a timeline. Would that be okay?
Like it, because it is a relationship. It's about both of those people in the room. And I recognize this is a topic that could go on for a very long time. And I'm sure you listening to this, you will have your own ideas of timelines and your own timeline, and maybe timelines you've seen in clients that you may have worked with. And I encourage you to get into our Facebook group and continue this conversation. Of course, we won't bring our clients into the Facebook group because that would be unethical, but we can certainly bring ourselves into the Facebook group and speak a little bit about what you think about timelines and how they affect you. Have you done any work on timelines? What do you think?